Women and Mothers. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Text 40. Arjuna says to Krishna, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. This particular verse I have found to have both negative and positive effects on people, men and women. Some people view it as demeaning, misogynistic, or bordering on misogynistic, or certainly demeaning. Others think not. Again, both men and women. But what I've also found is almost universally this verse is misunderstood, or rather, it is misunderstood because it is viewed through the lens of the modern definitions of male, female, masculine, and feminine. If we look at the teachings of the Puranas and the Vedas in Itihasas through the modern paradigm, the modern definition of what it means to be masculine or feminine, what it means to be male, female, what these feminine and masculine energies are and are not, then we're going to, and we have, run into all kinds of misunderstandings. Best. At worst, yes, misogyny, sexism, and genuine harm perpetrated upon others. So let's first have a clear understanding, remove our understanding or our definitions, or set them aside. The definitions, the modern definitions of masculine and feminine and so on. And let's look at the Puranas Itihasas, taking up the definitions, nuances given by the Puranas, Itihasas, and Vedas of what masculine and feminine mean. Because then we can read this verse and other verses and actually understand where they are going. At least have a clear and accurate understanding of what various individuals are speaking of. And then from there, one can take a negative view or positive view, but at least it's starting from the paradigm, the definitions of the Puranas and Itihasas. Masculine energy is often described as the bull, and the bull has four legs. Dharma, the bull of dharma. These four pillars are tapa, shaucha, daya, satyam. Tapa, self-mastery. Shaucha, purity. Daya, compassion. Satya, truthfulness. These are the four pillars of dharma. And the visual of a bull lends the masculine energy of the four principles of dharma. So if we're able to view masculine energy as the four principles of dharma, we're able to begin to understand everything that follows when the Vedic literature, Puranas, Itihasas, talk about masculine and feminine. If we look in the Bhagavad Gita, later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about feminine qualities. Kirti, Medha, Dhriti, Pri, Vak, and so on. I believe he lists 7 qualities that are described as feminine qualities. This is the starting point. We need to have the basic information we need to have to begin to untangle the masculine and feminine issues that we are confronted with in this day and age. Think of a flagstaff, firmly rooted in the ground, immovable. Those are the principles of dharma. Dharma is that flagstaff, firmly rooted in the ground, cannot be uprooted. Tapa, Rocha, Daya, Sati. At the top of the flagstaff is a banner. This banner, beautiful banner, inspires inspiration, gives direction, gives empowerment for all who see it. But the banner is susceptible to the blowing of the wind. It can blow to the right, to the left. It can blow east, west, north, or south. But it is always affixed to the flagstaff. The flagstaff are the principles of dharma, immovable. The banner are the feminine principles, gives direction, gives inspiration, gives empowerment for those who see it. The flagstaff without the banner is an obstacle. It has no purpose. A flagstaff protruding out of the ground is just going to cause harm for everyone involved. I remember many years ago in the compound, the campus of my school, there was prior to the campus being a school for kids, it was part of the campus was a grazing paddock for cows. And then then when the school came, they set aside that land for extending the Gurukul campus. But there was this pillar about maybe 6 feet tall, sticking out of the ground, concrete pillar. And it was used in some way, for some reason, for tying cows to or bulls to. I'm not quite sure exactly what it was. But it was still there next to a mango tree. And the developers of the campus, for whatever reason, could not remove this pillar out of the ground. So they put a garden around it, about maybe 10 feet in diameter, a circular garden, and there was flowers growing up over it, and it was around. It looked kind of nice. It had some vines growing up it, but it was a concrete pillar. Myself and some friends, we were running around in this area of the school campus, and I was chasing this one boy. I remember his name, but no need to share it here. And I was chasing, I think we were playing tag or something. And I was chasing him to get him to tag him out. And he was facing me, but he was running away from me, and I was running behind him, but he was looking back at me to seeing if I was getting closer and closer to him. And I could see him running straight for this pillar. And he was making a beeline for it. I stopped in my tracks and just froze. I couldn't communicate, or I didn't communicate. I couldn't shout, stop, don't run. Nothing came out of my mouth, but I could see what was going to happen. And sure enough, he was laughing, 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 running away, looking back at me and running forward. And as soon as he turned around to look forward, he smacked headfirst into this pillar. He was all right. Yes, he got a cut, so on and so forth. 2 days later, they did what they needed to do. They brought in a backhoe and they just dug out this pillar that was really sunk deep into the ground. A pillar, a flagstaff, without the banner at the top is nothing but a waste of space, will cause more harm than good. Banner that's not attached to a flagstaff is also similarly useless. It doesn't provide direction, does not provide inspiration, has no significance to anyone. No one sees it. It has no significance without being attached to a high, stable flagstaff. This is the Puranic, Vedic view of masculine energy and feminine energy. But what is really telling is that the flagstaff, the masculine energy, is different and unique. It is different from the banner in that, remember, the banner can blow or can flutter east or west. In other words, feminine energy can be either positive or negative. If we understand the feminine qualities, right? Fame is described as a feminine quality. Fame can be used to great upliftment and betterment of society. Think of Dalai Lama, Pope, Christ, Prabhupada. Or it could be used to the detriment of society, i.e., TikTok influencers. It's fame. It blows hot or cold. It can blow either way. It can be used either way. Intelligence, medha, another feminine, described as a feminine quality. It can be used for the betterment of humanity, life-saving medicines, or it can be used to destroy humanity, weapons of mass destruction and atomic warfare. Intelligence. What's another of the feminine qualities? Strength, dhriti, determination, forbearance and determination, strength of character, is described as a feminine quality. It can blow hot or cold. That determination can lead someone to achieve great many things for the betterment of oneself, one's family, one's society. Or it can go the opposite way. One can become stubborn, implacable, and determined to cause havoc in the world. Determination, dhriti. This is not true of masculine qualities. The principles of dharma do not go or do not blow hot or cold, positive or negative. Truth, to seek truth, to be truthful, is always a positive. Now, granted, there can be all kinds of consequences that come from being truthful, but as a principle of life, the principle of truthfulness is, by definition, by quality, it is a positive trait. Self mastery is a positive trait. There's no negative or positive to being one who has mastery of themselves. That is a positive character trait. Compassion, the principle of compassion, is a positive character trait. Cleanliness is a positive character trait. So the principles of dharma do not blow hot and cold. The principles, the principles of dharma are of benefit to humanity. The feminine qualities are different. They can be of benefit or not. If the feminine qualities are attached to the principles of dharma, then they are of benefit. If they are not attached to the principles of dharma, then they are of detriment. But there's more to this, much more to this. Without feminine qualities, dharma is useless. Let me take that back. Dharma requires the feminine qualities for its empowerment. The masculine without the feminine is a problem. The principles of dharma without the principles of femininity, feminine energy, is impotent. In Mahabharata, Pandu, when he realized he could not have children, but that Kunti had the ability to summon the gods and have their energy bestowed upon the children. Pandu felt as if he had won the jackpot because he could actually now summon the perfect children for society. This is a very, very instructive part of the Mahabharata. He now had the capacity to summon the perfect group of children for the betterment of society. Who did he ask Kunti to invoke? First, dharma. Invoke dharma to be the eldest son, to rule, to be the heir of the kingdom. Dharma. Masculine, the masculine energy. Yudhishthir was born. Who was the second? Vayu. Because Pandu wanted strength. Dharma without strength is impotent. So Pandu told Kunti, bring Vayu because he is the most powerful demigod. This is not often well known, but Vayu is considered to be the most powerful demigod, even more than Surya, Indra, and so on. We know from the story of Jyotishmati, when she went and she was looking for a husband, and she went to the demigods, and she was quizzing all the demigods, who's more powerful, who's more powerful. And they were saying, well, they all wanted to marry Jyotishmati, but to answer her honestly, they said, well, I'm not the most powerful, and they would refer her to the next most powerful. It finally went to Indra, and she said, Indra, are you the most powerful demigod? And Indra said, well, there's only one demigod more powerful than I, and that is Vayu. We also know, right, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna compares the mind to the wind as the most powerful element. So Vayu is the most powerful demigod. So Pandu says, invoke Vayu. Because dharma without dhriti, without determination, without fortitude, is useless. Not useless, impotent, weakened. Dharma by itself is not enough. We know this from the Bhagavad Gita, where there's always Krishna is talking about dharma, but when he comes to chapter 12, he says dharmamrita, the nectar of dharma. When it's not just dharma, but beyond dharma, dharmamrita, the nectar, the essence of dharma is bhakti. Dharma is not enough. So Pandu says, invoke Vayu. That's dhriti. That is a feminine character trait. Dhriti, determination, fortitude, to empower dharma. Bhima was born. Pandu wasn't done. Invoke Indra. Why Indra? Who is the most famous demigod? Indra is the most famous. Of all the gods, when I mention the most powerful demigod is Vayu, every time I bring this up, hand goes up in the crowd, in the audience, is it not Indra? No, Indra is the most famous. Everyone thinks Indra is the most powerful demigod. No, it's Vayu. But everyone thinks Indra is the most powerful because Indra is the most famous. But why invoke Indra? Because dharma, without this particular quality, fame, then what is dharma? It is one individual practicing religious principles. That's great. Pandu is a kshatriya. Pandu is an emperor. Pandu is a ruler of the world. It is essential that the principles of dharma are known far and wide. The principles of dharma have to be in every nook and corner of the kingdom. Fame is required. Fame is a feminine quality. It's kirti is the Sanskrit. Kirti means fame. That is a feminine quality. Pandu wasn't done, but Kunti was. My dear Pandu, three is that. That's beyond that. That's enough. Pandu turns to Madri. Madri, understanding the intent, understanding, knowing what her husband would want to make sure dharma is empowered, dharma is strengthened, dharma has everything it needs to be part of the ruling of the kingdom. And understanding she would probably have only one shot at having children, she invokes the Ashwini Kumaras. Why the Ashwini Kumaras? Nakul and Sahadev were born. Nakul was known as being extraordinarily beautiful. He was considered the most handsome of all the Pandavas. That is a feminine quality. Shri. Shri means opulence or beauty and or opulence, beauty, good fortune. During the Rajasuya Yajna, Nakul was in charge of the Duryodhan was in charge of the wealth or the donations that were coming in. Nakul was in charge of maintaining it, keeping it safe, putting it away. Fortune, that is a feminine quality. Wealth, that is a feminine quality. Tri is the Sanskrit term. Sahadev was extraordinarily intelligent. Whenever Yudhishthir wanted to know, should we do that? Should we do this? What about this? What about that? He went to two people. Well, he went to three. If Krishna were there, he always went to Krishna. If not Krishna, Domya or Vidura. But if Vidura, Domya, after those individuals, he always went to Sahadev. Even after talking to Vidura and Domya, he always consulted and got confirmation from Sahadev. Because Sahadev was extraordinarily intelligent. Intelligence is medha. That is a feminine quality. So knowing the mind of her husband, knowing the intent of Pandu, Madri invoked the Ashwini Kumaras so that there will be the opulence necessary for dharma to be empowered and there would be intelligence to facilitate the execution of dharma principles. Energies Pandu, Kunti, and Madri brought into the world to support dharma were all feminine energies. The only masculine energy was dharma. Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev without Yudhishthir. Bhima was an absolute hothead. So too was Arjuna. Nakul and Sahadev were the youngest of the four, of the five, and were always trying to uplift, support the elders. Imagine if these four individuals, without Yudhishthir, were the characters of the Mahabharata. It would have been a completely different story, and it would probably not be a story that was worth our reading, endeavoring to understand, and it would not be a story from which we could get understanding of how to live the principles of dharma. On the flip side, Yudhishthir, without the four brothers, Yudhishthir would have gone to the forest and taken sannyas long before. There would be no Mahabharata if Yudhishthir did not have those four brothers. There would be no, and the Mahabharata is not just the years where Duryodhan's involved. Remember, Yudhishthir ruled for another 40 years after the Battle of Kurukshetra. That would not have happened. And there was Yudhishthir, then there was Parikshit Maharaj. So there was a golden age after the Mahabharata, the Battle of Kurukshetra. We know the Battle of Kurukshetra. That's not the ending. That was the beginning, really, of the reign of the Pandavas. That would have never have happened if Yudhishthir was the only brother without Bhim, Arjuna, Nakul, and Sahadev. Duryodhan would have completely driven Yudhishthir. Dharma, Dharma would have been hiding in the forest in a cave somewhere, perfectly happy, but what good is that for humanity? So dharma is, of course, I mean, I used the wrong word when I said useless. No, dharma is essential. But if dharma is going to be of use to humanity, for an individual, yes, dharma will enable an individual to lead a successful life. And if that dharma matures and becomes dharmamrita or bhakti, then there is moksha, liberation, and relationship with the Supreme. But dharma without the feminine principles of determination, intelligence, fine speech, fame, memory, good fortune, and opulence. Without these things, dharma is only good for a single individual and maybe that individual's, not maybe, but yes, that individual's immediate family. But will not be powerful enough. It will not be strong enough to be of betterment to the entire world or humanity. It will be extraordinarily limited and impotent in that regard. So, this is how we understand masculine and feminine energies in the Vedic view, in the Vedic perspective. It is completely different from our modern understanding of what is masculine and what is feminine. Now, this doesn't mean that men have dharma and women do not, or women have the feminine qualities, none of the principles of dharma, and men do not have fame. No, that's not the case. In fact, it's just the opposite. Let me explain. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilomnu Pralada Janaka Bhishma Bhalir Vyasa Kirvayam. Those are the 12 Mahajans, great personalities. All men, bear with me. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Narada, Kapila, Prahlad Maharaj, Yamaraj, uh, Manu, who else? Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami, Narad Muni. Did I say Narad Muni? Anyways, these are the 12 Mahajans. Why are they Mahajans? Other than the fact that they are Vaishnavas, There's more to it than that. Why are they Mahajans? There are many other Vaishnavas. Why are they not put as Mahajans? We also have what's called Pancha Kanya, right? The five, on the one hand, we have the 12 Mahajans, and on the other, we have the five um, great females of Puranic history, right? Ahalya, who are they? Ahalya, Tara, Mandodari, Kunti, and Draupadi. Pancha Kanya, the five ladies. Why are these five ladies considered great personalities? What do they have in common? The 12 Mahajans and the Panchakanya, what makes them the 12 Mahajans, what makes them the Panchakanya, is that these individuals, these personalities, had both masculine and feminine in their character. Very, very important to understand this so we understand how masculine energies and feminine energies are understood in the Vedic Puranic context. The 12 Mahajans lived their life based on the principles of dharma. Simultaneously, they also had within themselves the feminine qualities to have the strength to choose dharma, had the intelligence to execute their occupations, their whatever their varna was, according to the principles of dharma. They had the good fortune, they had the opulence, they had everything they needed, they had the fame, they had everything they needed to make sure dharma was always a part of their existence. So the 12 Mahajans had both realized, or a better term would be, had both cultivated both the masculine and feminine within themselves. In other words, they had both cultivated the principles of dharma and the principles necessary to ensure dharma was always first and foremost in their lives. Now, this doesn't mean they didn't make mistakes. In fact, when they made mistakes, they often self corrected because they had the strength, the intelligence, all feminine qualities, strength, intelligence, and so on, to self correct. Or if they were corrected by some other person, they were able to quickly change course. Similarly, with Panchakanya, these five women always walked the path of dharma. So within them, they had the masculine energy as defined by Puranic literature, which is dharma. These five women walked, lived, executed the path of the principles of dharma, tapa, shaucha, daya, satyam, in everything that they did. It doesn't mean they didn't make mistakes. Of course, they made mistakes. Most often, they either self corrected because they had the feminine qualities as well: intelligence, memory, determination. So they were either able to self correct, or if they were corrected by others, they were able to quickly come back to and live the principles of dharma. But the issue is that this is rare. This is why the Panchakanya are elevated, because they were able to bring to the full potential, live according to the full potential of both masculine and feminine energies. The 12 Mahajans are revered because they were able to live to the full capacity or potential of both masculine and feminine energies within themselves. So it is not that men are masculine, have masculine energy, and women have only feminine energy, and they have to get married in order for there to be a combination of the two. No, that's not the case at all. Both men and women are to cultivate masculine and feminine energy as defined in this way. Both men and women should live according to the principles of dharma. Both men and women should cultivate those feminine attributes that help promote the principles of dharma. And those men and women who could do that are either Mahajans or Panchakanya. But it is rare. I shouldn't say rare. I would say difficult to achieve, difficult to come to that level of mature existence. And that's why we have those examples, Mahajan and the Panchakanya. Also, Krishna's the primary eight wives of Krishna, Ashtabharya, they're also in the category of Panchakanya. The only difference is that, and sometimes why they're not included, is because the eight wives of Krishna are Vishnu Tattva. They are essentially Lakshmi Devi in human form, if you will. So this gives us a proper understanding of how feminine and masculine energies mean much more than what we appreciate in the modern context. Far more significant and important issues contained in or qualities contained in masculine energy and feminine energy when defined in this way, and how both men and women are to cultivate both energies in order to live successfully. That is the whole purpose of Varnashram. It is not that the women do not follow the principles of Dharma, only the men are supposed to follow the principles of Dharma. Or only men are supposed to follow the principles of Dharma, and the women are supposed to be the ones who are intelligent and have money and fine speech. Fine speech, Vak is another feminine, considered a feminine quality. Pardon me. So now when we come to understand, excuse me, when we come to see feminine qualities, masculine qualities in this light, then we come back to the verse of what Arjuna is talking about. He's saying, my dear Krishna, if the elders of the family, go back to the presentation, Gita Satsang, I think it was 22 or 23, when I talk about Kula Dharma, the elders of the family, that was in text verses 38, 39, 38, 39. A few verses before this one. This one is number 40. 38, 39, Arjuna said, if the elders of the family are killed off and they haven't been able to give to the next generation the principles, their wisdom that comes from living the principles of dharma, then dharma is eliminated. Right? The masculine energy, dharma is eliminated. It doesn't mean men are eliminated. It means the principles of dharma are eliminated. What happens when the flagstaff has been cut down? The banner, the feminine energy, can blow. Remember, it can blow either east or west. It can blow hot or cold. If not established in the principles of dharma, then the feminine energy will be corrupted. In other words, what was strength and determination that led to the upliftment of society now becomes a determination to destroy society. What became the intelligence to bring life affirming medicines now becomes intelligence to create an atomic bomb. What was fame that led to the development of wonderful spiritual practices now becomes people following morons into destruction. What was beautiful, uplifting, empowering speech becomes demagoguery because it's not connected to dharma. So Arjuna, so we now we're able to see what Arjuna is talking about, what he's referring to, and he has a different paradigm when he's saying these things. Yes, it's as clear as day that also, yes, the women are going to be, the ladies are going to be lose protection. But it's even more than that. He's not saying that, excuse me, the only issue is not that the ladies themselves physically will be protected. That's true. That's absolutely true. That's one part of it. But another part is that what becomes corrupted is that all of the feminine energy of the world, instead of blowing warm, blows cold. And that's when you actually have the problem. Women can be physically protected. Absolutely. But if feminine energy of the world is not attached to the principles of dharma, the world will still go to hell in a handbasket, even though women are physically protected. All right? Zero rape, zero misogyny, zero all of these things that we talk about in terms of equality. So you can bring that to complete and absolute, the best physical outcomes, if you will, in terms of the protection of women. But if feminine energy in the world, which affects both men and women. If the feminine energy of the world is not connected to dharma, the world will still go to hell in a handbasket. Atma mata guru patni brahmani raja patnika dhenu dhatri tata prithvi sabtaita matara smritaha. The seven mothers. Seven mothers. Atma mata. Excuse me. Atma mata, one's own birth mother. Atma mata guru patni, the wife of the guru. Brahmani, the wife of the brahmana. Rajapatnika, the wife of the king. Dhenu, the cow. Dhatri, the nurse. Prithvi, Mother Earth. Saptaita Matara Smrita. These are the seven mothers. And there's a wonderful, some of you may know, so those of you who do not, you may have heard of the Hare Krishna movement. In the Hare Krishna movement, I don't know if there is now, but there was at one point a controversy between how to properly address, pardon me, the women in the organization. Should they be addressed as Mata, which means mother, or should they be addressed as Prabhu, which means master? Not in the way of master and lord in the sense of, feudal Japan or mid-century Europe, but it's a respectful term, Prabhu. Prabhu is in Sanskrit. It's a masculine word. In Sanskrit, words have genders: masculine, neutral, feminine, and so on. Many languages are like that. So there was a controversy. Should women be also in the view of equality and to eliminate misogyny, which was rampant, particularly in the early days of ISKCON, and it's still there. Then should we, in the interest of equality, should we call or address women as Prabhu as well? And Mata, many women are not don't have children. So why are you calling me a mother if I don't have children? Anyway, so it was going back and forth. I'm not quite sure where it is now. And one person was asking me, sent me a video of this issue that had come up. This was years ago. And one individual, she did not want to be called Mata. She was like, I'm not a mother. Don't call me mother. And the individual asked me after watching that video, he asked me, Maha Vishnu, so what do you think about this? And as I said to him then, and I will reiterate here, if a person wants to be called Prabhu or Mataji, that's irrelevant. I think if a person says, I do not want to be called Mata, I would rather be called Prabhu or whatever, call them what they want to be called. I think it's the height of disrespect to refuse to call someone what they want to be called. I really see no benefit in refusing to address someone the way in this particular issue, to address them the way they want to be addressed. It harms no one in terms of how they think about that person. If they want to be addressed that way, so be it. And it's very important, particularly understanding the whole issue of mata, mother. I think the big problem is not understanding the issue of what is mother in the context, again, of the Purana Itihasa literature. What is mother? Why is it Chanakya saying that Atma Mata Guru Patni? Why are these seven beings mother? What do they have in common? What does the wife of the king, the wife of the Brahmana, your own birth mother, a cow, a nurse, and the earth, what do they all have in common? When we understand that, then we understand what mata means. Mata has nothing to do with whether or not an individual has had a child. It has nothing to do with that. Common denominator between all of these seven matas, mothers, is that they have, again, let's go back to the Vedic view. Let's go back to the Puranic understanding. Feminine energy, masculine energy, dharma, kirti, dhiti, meda, vak, intelligence, determination, fine speech, the feminine qualities, the masculine qualities of dharma, truthfulness, compassion. Let's go back to that paradigm as we address this issue of mata, mother. What do all these seven beings have in common? A cow, birth mother, wife of the king, nurse. The wife of the king may not be a mother. She may not have given birth. The wife of a brahmana may not have given birth. The nurse may not have given birth. Earth. Earth is, in that context, it's of course it's the personification of earth is Bhumi, but what relation is earth to your own mother? We have to think beyond the, I wouldn't even say modern, I would say the common view of mother. In fact, take the word mother and flush it down the toilet. Forgive the visual. Get rid of the term mother because it's actually not helping in this regard. Let's stick to the word mata. What does mata have? Is a common thread between these seven. Mata, all these seven have the capacity to nurture both the masculine and the feminine. Our own mother can give birth, using the metaphorically speaking, can give birth to male and female. Our own mother can give birth to masculine and feminine energy and can nurse masculine and feminine energy without regard to self. Mata. Guru Patni, the wife of the Guru, may not have had children, doesn't matter. The wife of the Guru can nurture in the students in her Gurukula, because Gurukula was run by grihastas, not sannyasis. This idea of having sannyasis running, anyways, I'm not going to go down that road. That's another topic for another time. Guru Patni, the wife of the Guru, can nurture both masculine principles of dharma and the feminine energies for the disciples' gurus. Brahmani, similar to the Guru Patni, can nurture and empower both the masculine principles of dharma and the feminine in society and of the other varnas. The Brahmani, the wife of the Brahmana, can do that. Pardon me. Rajapatni, the wife of the king, whether or not she's given birth to a child, as the wife of the king, he can nurture and support both the masculine and the feminine in her kingdom. Nurses well can nurture and empower both dharma, the masculine, and the kirti, medha, dhriti, qualities of the feminine. Dhenu, the cow, in giving nurturing milk, nurtures both the masculine and the feminine. Mother Earth, in providing foodstuffs, empowers, nurtures both the masculine and the feminine. That is Mata. These 7 personalities can nurture both. And in that, Mata is revered. Because Mata can do that without any expectation of return. Only Mata can do that. Both masculine and feminine can nurture both of those without expectation of return. That is Mata. It has nothing to do with whether or not an individual has given birth. So when we see and understand these verses of the Bhagavad Gita through the Puranic lens in which these verses exist, that is the context of the Bhagavad Gita. It is the Puranic context, the context of the Itihasas. That worldview is different from the worldview we have today. So when we explore the verses of the Gita, we have to make sure we're looking at it and we're understanding the worldview in which those verses are presented. So now, when we go back to the verse, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, in other words, when dharma, when that flagstaff has been broken, is torn down, the women of the family become polluted. In other words, feminine energy, physically as well. The women, if there's no protectors, then of course the women are abused. But the feminine energy, because there's no principles of dharma, there's no truthfulness, there's no compassion, there's no self-righteousness, self-mastery, there's no cleanliness. All of that is gone. The women of the family become polluted. Physically, the individual, the women, become physically abused. And beyond that, feminine energy blows from hot to cold. Feminine energy in society turns towards the detriment of society. And from the degradation of womanhood, both through physical abuse, misogyny, and so forth, and through the degradation of feminine energy, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny because of the abuse of women and the unwanted consequences of feminine energy being corrupted. Those unwanted consequences being, rather than life saving medicines, being born through the use of intelligence in dharma. Dharma is not there, so intelligence will create an atomic bomb. And the negative consequences, the progeny, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, that comes of it. As we understand, as we come to know and see the Gita through the lens of the Puranic worldview, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita make much more applicable sense. Now, one can, from this stage, certainly can choose to be offended over this or that, but at least have an understanding of the worldview in which these verses are given. There's much more involved. Understand that in the Puranic worldview, masculine energies and feminine energies should exist in the same individual, whether male or female. And if the masculine energies and the feminine energies can exist simultaneously in a man, that person is Mahajan. If the masculine energies and the feminine energies can exist simultaneously in a woman, she is Panchakanya. Well, not Pancha, because Pancha literally means five. But you get my point. That is the goal. The goal is for men and women to manifest to their fullest potential, both masculine and feminine energies simultaneously within themselves and in their lives. That's the goal. Dharma, the masculine energy, dharma, without the dhriti, without the determination, the intelligence, the memory, the fame, the opulence, the wealth, without the feminine qualities, is impotent. Masculine energy requires feminine energy. Yudhishthir, without Bhim, without Arjun, without Nakul, without Sahadev, is absolutely impotent, despite the fact that he is Dharmaraj. Right? Yudhishthir was known as Dharmaraj. Impotent without the other four Pandavas. Representations of the feminine energies, qualities. And vice versa. Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev would have run rampant through the world. If the Pandavas were led by Bhima, Bhima was the eldest, right? If you take away Yudhishthir, Bhima would have been the eldest. My God, Bhima would have run rampant. For better or for worse, Bhima would have run rampant through the Kauravas and anyone who supported the Kauravas long before the Battle of Kurukshetra. For better or for worse, one can argue, well, it would have been a good thing. We don't know that. But what we do know is Bhima always, always had to be restrained by Yudhishthir and Arjun. Bhima was always ready to tear the world apart without thinking, for better or for worse. So let's have a more broad, deeper understanding and view of the Puranic Itihasa definitions of these. Do not just take for granted that we can overlay our modern ideas and concepts over the Bhagavad Gita and understand how they can be what's applicable and what's not. We have to make sure we are going as deep as possible, making sure we're not bringing our own prejudices to the Gita, to the teachings of the Puranas, our own prejudices, our own traumas, our own the harms and experiences we've experienced in our life, use that as an overlay, and then try to understand the wisdom of the Gita. Let's always make sure we're coming to the Gita, brilliant in the way Prabhupada titled his translation, Bhagavad Gita as it is. That means taking the Bhagavad Gita in the context in which the Bhagavad Gita was delivered and spoken. Hari Hari.